morning, everyone. This is Teresa Mueller. I am part of NICAR, the Northern Illinois Commercial Association Realtors. And this is our commercial real estate broker forum where we give an opportunity to brokers in the area to advertise their number one priority, and we find ways to help facilitate transactions. And I encourage, if you have suggestions for this forum, please do send them to me via email, info@teresamueller.com, and we'll incorporate them the best we can. Going forward, we will have a database for people to put in their properties or needs and wants, and members will also have it advertised through the NICAR page. We are happy to have presentations, short presentations at the beginning, if anyone has any suggestions. This particular time, we are going to talk a little bit about the Chicago market outlook. And so after the presentation, we will have a short Q&A, and then we will go into moderated packages, or at least a moderated session where that will not be recorded. However, we can share our information through the chat, which you can ask me for afterwards if you didn't have a chance to save it. So if everyone would go ahead and please put all their contact information and their top three needs and wants in the chat, that would be great. And start thinking about what you want to share. If you're going to share a listing, the questions that I will be asking are explaining about the property, where it's located, what amenities it has, that sort of thing. And then we'll go into what benefits the property may have, whether it's seller financing, great cap rate, think about what the benefits are. And then lastly, we might just comment on a few things on ownership. So we do ask that, that we keep confidential information limited in this forum, but we can follow up later on after that. So just keep that in mind. And I would like to hand over the mic to Rhea, who is with CoStar, and so graciously volunteered or was coerced into giving this presentation. So this will not be her only presentation with NICAR. So she's doing this one, a very short market outlook in or overview in Chicago, hopefully with some bright spots, but also follow up in next month. She will give a more global presentation, or I should say across the US, in gateway cities for our commercial global business network. So without further ado, if Rhea, if you could take the stage, I would appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Okay, so that one, here we go. Okay. Thank you so much for having me talk to you all today about the state of the market. I usually do these state of the market meetings about, I do them 4 times a year in our CoStar office, lasts about an hour. And so today I'm going to be doing it in 10 minutes. So I'm going to just kind of jump in there. So when we're looking at Chicago, for the most part, we are a market, contrary to what some people say, we do strive for equilibrium between supply and demand. There have been caveats through the years, which was ultimately was office space, because when I was writing about it in 2018, I would say, yeah, I know we need more space, but do we really need 13 million square feet? And then, of course, COVID hit. So, but outside of that, actually, even with office, it's kind of coming back into its fold. We're seeing, gross net construction actually being negative, which means that we're having more demolitions than we're actually having builds. And the builds that are happening are going to be more for medical office. But what we're really seeing is the great pivot. And I've been talking about the great pivot, for about 14, 15 months now. And we're really kind of seeing that, playing out, whereas this office space is getting demolished and getting repurposed mostly into data centers and some multifamily units. So, we're seeing some, when it comes to leasing, we're seeing that tenants know what they want. They want less space, at least when it comes to office. We're probably actually even seeing that in industrial too. But there's no doubt that the Great Basis Reset is underway. I just wrote a piece that was published yesterday about 2023 sales. And they were 2A1 was over 50,000 square feet. They were all distressed. So that means either they were in foreclosure, they were sold for land value, a lot of auctions. Even the biggest deal that's, one of the top three in honestly over 10 years, the sale of the Loyola University Medical Center in Burr Ridge, top dollar per square foot. But guess what? 2017, it was appraised for $75 million greater than what it actually sold for. So we're seeing that trend. It's we're expecting that 2024 is going to continue a lot more negative absorption. So it's at least for office, depending on what it is, it's going to be some, kind of configuring. So when we're really looking at Chicago, we've got labor shortages, we have union issues, municipality red tape, we've got bottlenecks, and we have uncertainty. But at the end of the day, none of this really matters if you can't get the funds to get a project done and off the ground. So is this, or isn't it a good thing? So what's one of the reasons why Chicago, let's just be honest, is such a stable legacy market is because it is so difficult to get things done here. That's part of the reason why we are not overbuilt, because it is such a pain to do that. So, just kind of, not all municipalities or coalitions do. Okay. So, I'm sorry. That was a direct response to Chicago developers and investors understand its demand fundamentals. I crossed that out for a different presentation. I should not have done that because I still think that's true, but not all municipalities and politicians do. For example, I've been in, reading up on different markets, and I really see like, wow, look at all the zoning approvals, all the things that are, trying to help, foster development in a market. But demolishing a 50,000 square foot or a 10,000 square foot office is not going to eradicate your oversupply of office space, right? So it's trying to find that balance. There is a reputation that there's anywhere but Chicago. I hear it at all of my networking events. I have a tendency to be pro Chicago, but it's because enough already, at some point, I really do believe that Chicago is going to turn around. And the reason being, is not only understanding our demand fundamentals, but, we've got it's coming on 11 years in a row that we are the top metros cited by Site Selection magazine for the most business expansions business expansion via square footage and by just getting deals done and investment, in the area. We also have, I just wrote a piece about student housing, just kind of talking about how, we have the great university sources here. So those are just some of the things to think about. How long have I been already? I've already talked for 17 minutes. Okay. All right. So if we're looking at the Chicago employment pie, I recommend everybody take a picture of this screen because this was really manually, I just kind of pulled stuff out. In the category of professional businesses and services, that's where we also have attorneys. But what I pulled out very specifically here in this chart is you can see the 7 and the 6, and that's manufacturing, transportation, and warehousing. And, what we're always getting dinged about in Chicago is that we have too much, we rely too much on manufacturing. Okay. Well, this is a chart that I'm like, it's kind of a live little presentation, just showing you how the jobs are changing, going toward more transportation and warehousing. So that's really has a lot to do with the strengths of what's in Chicago, is that we are an intermodal hub. And that is not changing. All the rail lines that, if you look at a map of the rail lines, and I'll be going in that more deeply at my State of the Market presentation, could see that all these rail lines like come out of Chicago, which kind of makes it a hub for so many different kinds of things of distribution. It's not just things by rail. So that's a stay tuner. So kind of talking about the Midwest, we're looking at, what makes the Midwest so great? Well, we have Lehigh Valley, which obviously that's a way that's far enough away, but it can reach, how many, they can reach millions of people in a 4-hour drive pretty quickly. Chicago is number 2 though, but the close third is Columbus. And I think that just kind of shows you about, who, if you really are truly just Chicago, that you have some competition from other markets that are going to have, decent, like Columbus have decent, infrastructure and ways to get to different markets via, a truck drive. But they don't have our rail access. I mean, they do, but not to the same extent that we do. But those other places are going to be less expensive. More looking at our job growth by sector, it's really, there's a bifurcation between, we do see total non-farm going up, but office using going down. Oh, not the bifurcation was for the word for absorption. Sorry. So when we have office space, it used to go like as employment went up, office space demand would go up, but now they're all over the place. But now that we have, we've lost year over year, we've lost office using jobs. That certainly is not helping the office market. And as you can see, year over year, we do have a almost 6% decline in information. And this is across the nation. I would say most numbers, truthfully, are larger than 0.58. So when we're looking at the demographics of our region, we're really kind of in line with the rest of the country. The difference is that we're not gaining in any of these cohorts. We're losing in these cohorts. So our population gains are, they are negative, but our household growth is stable. So, and that's really an important thing to think about for multifamily housing, because when you have a family of 5 that moves out of state, that is one household. And by the way, it's probably going to be an owner-occupied household. So that's 5 people who left. Meanwhile, you have a husband and wife that get a divorce. Now you have 2 households. Okay, so one is maybe keeping the house and the other one is renting. So as far as the actually multifamily is concerned, this whole scenario is totally just a +1 for multifamily. And that's how, just quickly kind of explaining, why we see positive demand for, multifamily still in a market that is losing population, is because our household growth is stable. Also, most people who rent, contrary to belief, it's not families with screaming children, it's single people. So head of households, that really works well for Chicago. And then just kind of like wanting to wrap this up, when we're looking at under construction levels, we're seeing that it's starting to dip. This is putting all of the 4 food groups together, actually kind of 5-ish, but adding flex, industrial, retail, office, and multifamily. We're seeing under construction levels dip, but really this is the slide that is kind of, what are we seeing start? And seeing how this really coincides with, the rise of interest rates. Now, retail sales are generally still healthy, even when adjusted for inflation. And then just really kind of wanted to end with this, with home sales being in the doldrums, because this kind of really sums up a lot of things that are going on in commercial real estate. So believe it or not, there generally is not a relationship between home sales and multifamily demand. You'd think they would have, like, when home sales go up, less people rent, but that's not necessarily true. They're kind of separated from each other, except an extreme situation like right now, where people who would be buying homes aren't, because A, they have golden handcuffs with such low interest rates, or B, they just can't afford it. Like, it just doesn't pencil. And that makes sense, because a lot of times it really just doesn't pencil. It's more economical to rent. Now, going back to this though, see how quick I'm going through all this? Anyway, so going back to this, so home sales going down, one of the things that people didn't really expect was that the sales of home goods, so buying new furniture, buying a new lamp, buying new carpeting. So when you're not buying new homes, you're not buying those goods. So that's just kind of like, I'm going to leave you with that to think about it, because why retail sales are strong, it's not really because of the durable goods so much. Retail sales are strong a lot because of services, going to the salon, or going to actually quick service restaurants, or going to restaurants, right? So kind of those environments, but actually filling up your home with goods, that's not going strong because of what's going on in the housing market. So I'm going to end right there. I think, hopefully I didn't go too over. And if anybody has any questions, that would be great.
All right, if you could please unshare your screen, that would be great. And the first 3 people that raise their hands will be the questions that get asked. So use your, if you could use the reaction so I can see. So Peter's the first one. If you could use the reaction button for the raise hand, that'd be great. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, a couple questions. I don't know if you know the answer, that they're sort of out there, but the effect of the Chicago transfer tax coming up, also known as a millionaire's tax, or
Right. The mansion
tax. What effect is that going to have with the investment world in Chicago? Have you heard anything?
I mean, it's definitely, BOMA is fighting it, Building Owners Management Association. The city of Chicago is fighting it. There are people that I hear mostly against it. But then there are others that are for it, thinking that, what's the big deal? It's only 3%. So I think the real issue for, personally, I think it's the taxes just in general is hard for commercial real estate, how they're going to get assessed, because it's not consistent. And so that's what really makes it difficult for foreign investors to want to come here, is because we don't have a consistent, like if you know that your taxes are this, then you can write it, into your projections, but you can't project a 300%, tax increase, right? And then your neighbor gets 0.
Right.
So, I would especially think that's, who's really going to struggle if this, mansion tax goes through, because it's only over $1 million.
Right.
That's chump change in the CRE world.
Right.
Right.
One more question. Have you heard anything about, you mentioned investors, national as well as international investors. They're staying away from Cook County for one reason, because of real estate taxes.
Sure.
Is Kagi going to change that? Have you heard anything?
I'm sorry?
Is he going to ease up on the real estate tax for Cook County?
You're talking about Kagi?
Kagi, yes.
Yeah, I have no idea. I voted for him, truthfully, because I think we just need something consistent. And then it's just really not working out to be that way, so.
I will not invest in Cook County. I'm looking for self-storage facilities. I will not go to Cook County. No,
I've, been a landlord, and I had a tax once. I know it's silly, but it was just so egregious. $50 per unit for sewage and garbage removal, $50 a month per unit, retroactive. So I couldn't put it into my leases, because my existing leases, I had to foot that bill. Like it was just, and it's just this whole idea that landlord, of course you're just going to pass the fees on to the renters. And that's what's just so ridiculous about it, because everybody needs a new pair of shoes.
Are there any other questions before we move on to the moderated session? Nothing else? Okay. Thank you very much, Rhea. We appreciate you coming on, and I hope that you will also log on to the Commercial Global Business Network that's advertised through our NICAR site next month, where she will also give an overview of all the major gateway cities so we can expand beyond Chicago. Thank you very much.